If you're Jeff Sessions today, how do you wake up and go to the Department of Justice and face your staff when your boss says the night before, I wish I'd never hired him, and I would not have if I had known what he was going to do?
I mean, it ain't easy, although I do think that there, to some extent, with the career people there, having Donald Trump go after you like this might get some of the people who are really wary of you and wary of your pretty draconian policies, which are 180 degrees from where the Obama administration was, rallying in your corner. So I don't think this is all terrible for Jeff Sessions internally, but if the president doesn't have his back, and clearly he doesn't, this is a huge problem for him. Especially if he gets into fights with Congress. I mean, you're seeing fights over seizure and forfeiture of property that he's already getting into with the more libertarian Republicans on the Hill. You see him moving towards a 1980s mentality on drugs and incarceration, which frankly is, maybe even a 1950s mentality and where he's always been on this.
Yeah, right.
And something that people in both parties and the Koch brothers definitely don't agree with him on. And when those things start to come to a head in terms of legislation, it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump's going to get involved, but if Donald Trump isn't there fighting in his corner, who's going to win those battles? And he might be fighting those himself.
Will or should Jeff Sessions just resign? I mean, if this were a British system, right, and the prime minister or whatever said, I have no confidence anymore in my foreign minister, the foreign minister would just resign, right?
I think if this was a normal year in the American system, the secretary of whatever would just resign at that point too. I mean, if this is a normal year, the president wouldn't be publicly saying that.
If there were anything normal about this administration, but I mean, how can you stay if he said that about Jeff Tillerson? You'd have to believe that Jeff Tillerson would say, fine, if you don't have confidence in me, or Rex, I'm sorry, I'm out of here. Right?
Yes and no. I mean,
really?
I think a lot of these guys feel that they're serving their country and are, I think, a little more used to the president's outbursts, for lack of a better descriptor, than some of us are. I think this happens a lot behind the scenes, and we get flashes of this publicly.
Yeah, right.
But Trump tends to get very angry and blow his top and hold grudges, and then sometimes those people get back in his good graces. And we've seen that time and again with him, firing campaign people and then them being, all of a sudden he's talking to them privately, and this kind of cycle of he gets pissed at whoever he's been dealing with, and then he cycles back to the person who had fallen out of favor before. So I mean, this is clearly a grudge that he's held a long time, that he's furious at Jeff Sessions for his part in, essentially blaming him for this Russia investigation when, somehow it's not his son's fault for meeting with people. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things here. But I've heard privately that Jared Kushner's fallen out of favor some partially because of all the Russia stuff and the headaches that it's giving Trump. But I mean, there was talk on the Hill, and people looked into this, and it turns out it's too late for Jeff Sessions to quit and run for his Senate seat again.